Got an hour in the books. That means we got an hour left to play on this Tuesday edition of Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys. Thank Jimmy Kempsky coming on board, sticking around as long as he did. Matt Verderam of Fansided scheduled to join us coming up about 20 minutes from now. And we'll certainly get Matt's perspective. One of the reasons I know John feels the same way I do here, that we like getting national guys on. We're not going to give you national guys on a day in, day out basis, but we do get national guys on, and we'll have Mike Garafolo, Philly guy, who's certainly a national reporter these days for the NFL Network, on tomorrow. They get to give you the perspective from a step back. John is on top of it every single day. I'm here in town judging the Eagles from right up close and personal. It's nice to get a different perspective from someone who isn't covering the Eagles on a day in, day out basis. That's what a guy like Matt Verderam should be able to give us coming up about 20 minutes from now. Mike Garafolo will tomorrow. But we do give you the national perspective on the National Football League as well. And a big story the last several days, and it got even bigger yesterday, was Julio Jones and his potential to leave the city of Atlanta. I will be honest, after Birds 365 was over yesterday, I was relaxing on the couch doing some work, and I flipped on Undisputed, the show that's on Fox with Skip, never met a guy he couldn't hate, Bayless, and the ex-superstar tight end / Hall of Famer, Shannon Sharp. And they were discussing Julio Jones. And Skip Bayless, a well-known Cowboy fan and devotee, was talking up a blue streak about Julio Jones joining the Cowboys because there was a picture on social media of Julio Jones in a Cowboy sweatshirt. Yeah. And 2 + 2 = 4, so he's got to be a Dallas Cowboy, even though the Cowboys already have a $20 million wide receiver on their roster and 2 other very good young wide receivers. Yeah, let's add another wide receiver, even though it makes no sense whatsoever. Give Skip Bayless a chance to open his fat mouth, and he's going to do so. And that's exactly what he did. And Shannon Sharp attempted to shut him up, and he did so in a pretty damn cool way. On the show, on the air at the time, he breaks out his cell phone, goes to his contacts, connects the call. He's got Julio Jones in his cell phone. And yo, Julio. And Shannon starts asking him about what's going to happen with him upcoming in his career. What was the deal with the Cowboy jersey? Are you staying in Atlanta? I'm out of there. He said this live on the air. And I think he knew he was on the air, but I don't know for sure because he didn't inform him. Hey, Julio, we're on the air at this time. But he just answered the question honestly. So Julio Jones believes he's going to be traded by the Falcons. Probably not to the Cowboys, but I think it's about as likely that he ends up with the Cowboys as he does the Eagles. But if there's a big name out there to be talked about, Howie Roseman is somehow going to wiggle his way into the conversation. Jason LaConfora, an NFL insider for CBS, said, and you can never count out the Eagles when it comes to being involved in a big trade. I give Howie Roseman credit because he's built up this reputation that has him being mentioned every single time there is a big name on the open market. Give me the percentage chance that Julio Jones is going to end up here in Philadelphia, John McMullen.
5%. And by the way, Jody, the reason he's always brought up, and I always joke, every rumor in the NFL ends the same way. And it's ... and the Eagles. That's what happened. And the reason why that happens is because Howie does make the call. He makes the call. So he'll check in, and then you can report it and say, Howard Roseman, is interested. The Eagles are interested in Julio Jones. Blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't you be? There should be 31 other teams interested in Julio Jones. Even the Dallas Cowboys, even with all their receivers. If everything fit perfectly, which rarely happens. Look at Ryan Kerrigan, much lower, but we opened the show talking about Ryan Kerrigan. Much lower profile, even though he's a very good player. It fell into place. The Eagles weren't going to be in the mix at $7-8 million a year. 1.36 million a year. The market's not there. Oh, we're interested. And boom, Ryan Kerrigan and the Eagles. Ryan Kerrigan's an Eagle. Julio Jones, I mean, they could use an X receiver, Jody. We've been talking about it forever. This is the X receiver in the NFL. This guy's first ballot Hall of Famer, unbelievable player. Can you imagine the pieces? We were talking with the pieces with Jimmy Kempski, Devontae Smith at the Z, Jalen Reagor in the slot, Julio Jones at the X. That's a playoff team if the quarterback can complete 60% of his passes.
Right, but Jalen Reagor would have to beat out Greg Ward for the slot. That's just my personal opinion, but that's I'm sorry to interrupt.
I think he'd have a good chance. That's my opinion. But nonetheless, perfect fit from a football standpoint. Oh, by the way, they have no money. He makes a ton of money. They have less than $4 million on the salary cap as we stand here. What are you going to trade? You're going to trade Fletcher Cox for him? Does Atlanta want Fletcher Cox? Do you want to make your defense that much worse? So the only reason I say 5%, it's probably closer to 1.5%, because Julio, oh, by the way, Julio said, I want to win. The Eagles, in theory, are not. You talked about the national guys. One reason I like the fact that we're having Matt on. One reason I'd like to get national guys on is because you want to get that perspective, whether it's right or wrong, whether you like it or don't like it, the national perspective of this team, which, by the way, is the perspective Julio Jones has, it isn't very good.
No.
So for a guy who wants to win, he's not coming to Philadelphia right now. So I put it at 5%. It's probably more realistic. It's probably 2%, 1%. He's not coming here. No, but it's a great player.
Let me add to your reasons why. I'll disagree on one of the things you said, but let me add to your reasons as to why Julio Jones is not coming here. Yes, Julio Jones, if and when he gets traded, will almost definitely be redoing his contract with his new team. Oh, by the way, Julio wants to upgrade his contract, not downgrade his contract, not make less money. He wants more money, which would mean more guarantees. And one of the things that the Eagles had to do this year, just to be able to put forth a quasi-competitive team, as John just noted, most national experts have the Eagles in the bottom 5, 6, at best 7 teams in the National Football League. To do that, after taking the $33 million dead cap hit on Carson Wentz, they had to restructure contracts of guys who are already on the roster. And you don't want to do too much of that, because then you're just pushing your cap question marks down the road into another year. We know next year they'll get major relief because Carson Wentz and his dead cap money will be off the books. So it should clear up a lot of the issues. But if you're going to do that with a guy like Julio Jones, bring him in and say, all right, yeah, we'll guarantee you, and then we'll add phony years to the back end. You're only continuing to add to your cap hell going further. And I don't know that the Eagles want to do that in this year, where Julio Jones could come in and take them from a 7-win team to a 9-win team. And 9 might not be enough to make the playoffs anyway. So what are you really doing? What are you achieving? It's all debatable. So that's one of the big reasons why I don't think Julio Jones is going to come here. Salary cap more than anything else. As you noted, Julio makes a judgment call if he's going to say, no, I don't even want to redo the contract with a team like the Eagles because I don't think the Eagles are going to be good enough. I want to be traded to a team that's going to the playoffs and can win when they get there. So that's going to throw more of a douse on the flame of Julio Jones coming here and the like. And number 3, and some people may think this is an overstatement on my part, maybe a little too birds optimistic. I think they want to give some of these young guys a chance. I think they want to give Hightower a chance. I think and it's, again, my opinion, last stand for J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to prove that he wasn't a wasted second-round pick. New coaching staff, head coach who is a wide receiver type expert. I think they want to give him another shot at potentially grabbing a spot. I think they want to find out that 5-game run that Fulgham had last year, was it an optical illusion, or is he that good a player? You bring in Julio Jones, add him to Devonta Smith, who you took as high as you did in the first round. He slammed the door shut. Everybody else is playing for one position. I want Julio Jones on the field like 100% of the offensive snaps. I want Devonta Smith on the field 100% of the offensive snaps. that leaves crumbs for everybody else. I think that it's always nice that Howie
Well,
Roseman.
Jody, real quick, you know what I think? Julio's an FU player. I don't give a crap about everybody else. I mean, if you're able to get him, you get him. First ballot Hall of Famer, best X receiver in football, still playing at that high level. He's different. I don't care about any other name you mentioned, with the exception of Devontae Smith, who's going to play anyway. So, but I mean, you don't have to worry about it. Vegas, I just pulled up the lines. Baltimore, it goes Baltimore, San Francisco, New England, the Chargers, Titans, Colts, Packers, then the Eagles, who are 10-1, and the Eagles. Everybody puts and the Eagles.
Let me ask you a question about something you just said. What do you consider Devonta Adams?
He's an FU player.
Well, no, position-wise.
Oh, position-wise, he can play X or Z. He can play. He can play. I don't want him. He can play the slot as well. When you get up, but I don't want him in the slot. When you get up those types of receivers, top 10 level receivers, you generally move them all around. You generally take advantage of whatever matchup you can have. Julio plays Z as well at times. The Falcons have Calvin Ridley. He's a great slot receiver, great Z receiver. The good receivers, Nick Sirianni's right. You move them all around. The problem is, if the other guys move around and they're not good at the other positions, then you have a problem. And then you have to kind of default to where, in other words, you have to take into account where they play poorly, because you can't put them there. And that means you have to put the good receiver in the position that they can't play, if that makes sense.
I understand where you're coming from. Do you consider DeAndre Hopkins one of those receivers? He's an X, he's a Y, he's a Z, whatever the hell you want him to be. He's that good.
Mainly an X, but yeah, he's that good.
Gotcha. All right. That's why you said Julio Jones, best X receiver in the National Football League. I disagree. I think but Devonta Adams and DeAndre Hopkins have both surpassed Julio Jones.
You could argue DeAndre. I don't think Devontae. Devontae's a great route runner. Maybe it's not fair, but I do think Aaron Rodgers tends to elevate people. Julio Jones is just a monster. I mean, a monster. Nobody can stop him. This is one of the great receivers of all time. He is the most physically impressive receiver since Calvin Johnson.
Wow, that's saying a lot. I'm a Julio fan too, but apparently not as big as you, because and again, physically impressive is very important. If you've got it as something in your tool bag, you certainly want to take advantage of it and use it. I'll judge just how do you make plays. I don't care how big you are.
I mean, who's made more plays, Jody? I'm going to look up Julio. I'm guessing.
Last 2 years, I would suggest DeAndre Hopkins' numbers were better than Julio Jones.
5-time All-Pro Julio Jones. 5-time. 2-time receiving yards leader. Yeah, I mean, when you get up into the 5-time All-Pro conversation, the one thing I will say, and it's fair, considering how big and physical he is, he hasn't done a lot historically in the red zone, which is weird to me. So I don't know if that's a Falcons problem. I don't know what that is, but I will admit that part of it's weird, because he should be the most dominant red zone receiver in football, and he hasn't been.
Right. And as physically gifted as he is, as you described him, and I think it's a very accurate description. I'm not going to argue that with you. It's funny because everyone's got their own perspective. My perspective of Julio Jones, more than anything else, was 4th down in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia.
2017, got his hands on the ball. If he makes that catch, we're not talking about the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. They get derailed before that Super Bowl ever starts to run. And I think now that this is going on 4 years now that we're removed from that becomes more and more forgotten with every passing year. that Julio Jones actually had his hands on the ball in the end zone under a minute to go. He catches it. The Falcons take the lead. And we're not talking about Nick Foles running up the score against Minnesota the week thereafter and then out-dueling Tom Brady in the Super Bowl 2 weeks after that. They
so
lose
you should
to the
be
Atlanta
happy.
Falcons.
Well, here's my takeaway from Julio Jones. For a team that we talked about with Jimmy Kempski, hasn't had a 600-yard receiver in 2 years. So you go, okay, Jody, you go 2014 to 2019, 1,593 receiving yards, 1,871 receiving yards, 1,409, 1,444, 1,677, 1,394. That is an FU player.
Yeah, he's a little bit better than what the Eagles have had at wide receiver. I don't think anyone in his right mind would attempt to argue that. But yeah, you got to keep an eye on those touchdowns because he hasn't been as prolific a touchdown guy.
Yeah, that's weird. I can't explain that. I'll be honest.
I'm a D-Hop guy. I think DeAndre Hopkins is the most talented wide receiver in the league. And I think Devonta Adams, and you're right, the whole thing you got to decide about Adams, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Is he as good as his numbers say he is because of Aaron Rodgers, or does he help elevate Aaron Rodgers and make Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think it is the chicken and the egg. I love Devonta Adams. I think he's a great player, but I don't think anybody elevates Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers elevates everybody else.
More likely, but we'll see if Rodgers decides to relocate this offseason. And oh, by the way, did you catch him on SportsCenter last night?
I did. Well, I saw the clips, not live. But
yeah, neither did I. I saw the clips thereafter. He comes on, white T-shirt. I don't even know if it was white. Actually, may have needed to be washed. It certainly needed to be pressed because the neck was plunging badly. The hair just stole.
Yeah, I think he's in Hawaii. He's in
Hawaii for a friend's wedding. Talk about just kicking back, chilling, and relaxing. But he allows them to bring a camera into, I guess, his hotel room just to be able to hop on and chat with Kenny Mayne, who was doing his last ever SportsCenter.
By the way, good job, ESPN, with Kenny Mayne. You know, Kenny Mayne's so talented, he gets Aaron Rodgers to drop any pretense. And by the way, the ending was awesome. Did you see the ending?
What are you referring to?
Kenny Mayne ended the interview. He said, basically making a joke. Anybody who knows Kenny Mayne does. He said, Aaron, you recommended cryptocurrency. I listened to you. I'm down 40%. I lost my job. All my daughter wants is a comforter. F you. And he walked off.
Great for Kenny Mayne. A quick Kenny Mayne story. And then we got to bring Matt Verderame, a fan-sided, on here. When I worked for ESPN years ago, ESPN Radio, they asked me, I wasn't working for ESPN at the time. They asked me to freelance cover the Kentucky Derby. I was part of the Kentucky Derby broadcast. I don't know if it was the year. I think it was the year Musburger was the host. In the booth was myself, Jerry Bailey, Hall of Fame jockey, one of the greatest of all time, who still does all the TV work on NBC now when they have the Triple Crown coverage. But Jerry was in the radio booth with us for ESPN that year. And yours truly, as the wagering analyst, and did it for 2 years, had a great time doing it. Kenny was there for SportsCenter, and they had the ESPN crew, television and radio, in the same hotel. So we stayed not far from the track. And I didn't have a rent-a-car. They said we'd double it up on rent-a-cars, blah, blah, blah. So you could walk to the track from where our hotel was. And that's what I was planning on doing. I did it on Friday. I walked over. I walked back. On Saturday, day of the Kentucky Derby, I was walking out of the hotel, and I was ready to walk back over and somebody comes walking up behind me and just taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "What do you think? You're walking? Get the hell over here. Get in my car." And I knew Kenny to say hi, but we weren't like buds or anything. But he pulls me into his car. He says, "I got to pass. I'm parking right in front. You're not walking. Get in the car with me." And we did. We drove. We talked about the race. We talked about this, that, and the other thing. And like I said, it was walking distance, so it should have been a 2-minute ride. But you have to go through security and everything else. So it took us a solid 15 to 20 minutes just to get to the parking spot Kenny was in. It was maybe the best 15 minutes of that weekend, other than a couple of races where I catch big tickets. But just the most regular guy, down-to-earth guy, great sense of humor. I agree with you. Shame on ESPN. He will be missed. They kind of screwed that up. But my question was going to be, and again, we got to get Matt Verderame up here. Aaron Rodgers, more purposeful that he hopped on to try and get a spin out there? Or do you think he was just being a good guy, cool guy, likes Kenny Mayne, knows Kenny Mayne, wanted to do him a solid, hop on his last ever sports?
Well, I think he likes Kenny Mayne, loves him, wanted to do him a solid, but also he was trying to get something accomplished. I mean, Aaron's always got an angle. So I think it's part of both. But yeah, I mean, he said it's about people. I mean, come on. These guys are insane that they think people are buying this. I mean, he hates the GM, he hates the organization, and he's trying to spin. Oh, I love Jordan Love. Come on, dude. Come on.
You aren't buying that, huh?
No.
He loves a kid. I think he called him a kid, as a matter of fact, which he can do. He's been around long enough that Aaron Rodgers can get away with that.
And by the way, he might like him, but he didn't like that they picked him.
He's still smarting about that one. He is John McMullen. I am Jody McDonald. We are the Mac guys. This is Birds 365. That's certainly a topic we're going to bring up with Matt Verderame, a fan-sided national NFL columnist. He's scheduled to join us next here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
The future waits for no one, so we refuse to wait for it. We're not just pilots and engineers. We are pioneers. Today, battles are waged in nanoseconds, and planes are piloted from the other side of the world. We turn night into day and fly missions in space. The future's not coming. It's already here. This is the future. Join us and be the future.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to Steer Snacks. If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.